Hey folks, Steve here with a special video for you today. We're going to talk about Axis Empires Ultimate Edition uh, sorting, bags within bags within bags, because I have managed to now have punched all the counters. I did not uh, do any counter clipping. I'm still trying to decide what I want to do about that. I may end up clipping them as I play the game in the future, or maybe not clip them at all, other than cleaning up some of the worst nubs on some of the counters. But I definitely want to get them punched and sorted so that, as I get the whim to play, I'm not having to punch them later. I found some time to punch it and get it organized, and I want to show how I did that and basically how I got everything back into the box. Now, um, there is a Zen perspective on game sorting. It is its own art in many ways, and I understand that in the day now where we have 3D printers, we can 3D print solutions. We can use GMT counter trays or other vendor counter trays, and I certainly have a lot of counter trays in my stock in a pile that I can use to punch and sort games how I wish. But I do find that sometimes, depending on the game, how the game is played actually has a huge factor on how it should be organized. Um, and then also the box space can dramatically affect where I go to either do counter tray versus bags versus something else. And for Axis Empires, as we'll see, I've decided to go with bags. Now I know there are folks that use trays, and what I've heard is like, oh, they put all of this into. I think it was Thomas Prowl who said he got it into like 9 counter trays that are maybe stored outside the box. And I genuinely do not like having parts of a game stored outside of the box because it takes up more shelf space, and who knows, what some counter tray drops by accident, counters are scattered to the winds, who knows what. I just don't like doing that. So my intent is usually to find a way to get it back into the box somehow. And if I've got to take something out of the box and store it elsewhere, I do try to store it as close as humanly possible to the box as best I can. My solution for the bags is leveraging a variety of different sized bags, actually. Over the years, I've accrued a number of different bags from GMT games, for instance, where maybe I did use a counter tray for a game, and I had excess bags that I didn't use, or some permutation where I keep all that stuff. It's the surplus game storage pile that I have, and I do leverage that. So there are a number of kind of long rectangular bags that I've used that have come from GMT games and Compass games and various other uh, game companies that include bags in the box. I also use a assorted bag size package that I've gotten off of Amazon before, where like if you put in plastic baggies assorted into the search, you're going to find something like this, where what comes in the package are a whole bunch of these 2x2 bags, uh, also 3x5, as well as 3x3, and so on, to where depending on what you're sorting and how you want to sort it, you can use a different size bag. So sometimes I might use the 2x2 small baggies to store the administrative counters, things like game turn markers or resource counters or that sort of thing. And then maybe dividing a particular set of units into the 2x3 or 3x3 or 3x5, depending on how big that particular logical set of counters actually is. So, without further ado, I'm going to start to show how I've stored this, but that was a really key part of the storage strategy, and is for many games that I have, to use these assorted baggies to really sort things down to a very particular degree. I think some folks don't like to do bags because what they think that might mean is like you're just stuffing a bunch of stuff into one big bag, and that's keeping it in bags, where with the multi-sized bag categorization of things, I can put some stuff into smaller bags and then put those bags into bigger bags, all logically organized. So like, and we'll see this, Some factions are in 4 baggies that can be stuffed into one big baggie. So it's like all the Germans um, in one big bag, but within that bag are different things. So you can see I've managed to store this, and there's actually still like half an inch of space on top. So if I end up printing additional player aids, or if there's errata that I need to print out in the future, I've got ample space left in here. And I can pull the rule books away. And I have some of the player aids here. And really, these are just sitting on top of the box insert functionally at this point. So as I'm pulling these player aids away, you can see there's a pretty straightforward approach to all of this. So once I pull the player aids and the rule books away, um, what I'm left with are I've kept the box insert, and then the cards actually gave a real particular challenge because while I do like using tuck boxes to store cards, and I have a lot of like plain white tuck boxes that you can like assemble and use for cards, I do that a lot for a lot of my games that have cards. I found that they weren't big enough to put like one whole big stack of cards inside, and that being in the tuck boxes adds just those extra few millimeters that makes it actually hard to Tetris everything back in here. So what I've done is I've utilized the long rectangular baggies, which have come in a number of different publishers' games over time, and I've accrued a fair number of them. I've simply taken like, these are the Fortunes of War cards. I just took that stack, threw them in this bag, folded over, and so there's a nice cushion, and then the cards are still, in one set, right? They're not going to be flying around the box getting mixed up. They're logically sorted into the bag, folded over for space. And then same thing with the Soviet Daisenso cards. And for the bigger stacks, I've split it into two. So like the Totaler Western Allies cards is a big stack of cards. I have it separated because when stacked together that you can't fit them through the whole of this bag. I just split it into two. So generally having it, push all the air out. Cards are in there, stack them like this, fold over the bag tops over the stack, and they can fit snugly right in here. And I've kind of done that for each of the card sets, generally where when you include all the cards together, it's really, the stack is so big, you split into two bags. And I've done that the whole way through here. And I still have room after doing that for the dice, as well as some of the game agnostic counters. So these are administrative counters. They're either control markers or administrative counters that kind of apply to either Daisenso or Totaler. And these markers all kind of fit in the little nugget of space left over from where the cards go. And then I've kept the map overlays in here in the nice little package that they gave because it fits really snugly in the boundary of the box insert. And then all the counters for the games and the expansions are in the tuck components of this, still sitting on top of the maps. I just want to show, I'm going to pull this out. It is kind of snug in here. I have all of Dice of Decision here. Excuse my poor handwriting. You can see I've got it organized. So like organized by the power, the faction, and then there's a little bit of logical sorting within that. And I could always go to a lower granularity level of splitting these things up in smaller bags. That might be appropriate for some of the minors, because there's a lot of minors. So that all actually fit in this sort of odd-sized baggie I did happen to have, so that I can kind of fit like all of Dice of Decision, anything oriented to the counters that come in the Dice of Decision counter sheets, fit into this nice, little pack, and it fits in just really perfectly right there. And then similarly for Schiffskrieg, I've done that as well, and I've done it a little bit where you can kind of see here. Here are the Americans, so I have their ships, their light ships, and then their planes are actually in a third bag, all within a longer bag, one of the ones that actually came with this game. So the three different like categories of U.S. units each have their own bag, and then stuffed into a faction bag inside my Schiff's Krieg bag. So if I'm gonna play with Schiff's Krieg, I can open up this bag, this pack, you know, um, and then depending on the faction, I'm gonna pull on that particular bag within here. And if for some reason I don't need a certain faction's counters right away, that stays safely sorted in the bag. And again, the expansion boxes here just continue to sit. You kind of have to mess a little bit with the box flaps here, but they fit snugly back down in, and the same elevation of the boxes there, so it's nice. It fits just perfectly in there. And then on the left side, I have everything else, and I had to make some decisions here. So like all of Daisenso, all of the counters that are specific to Daisenso fit into a number of different bags that I've got sorted by faction. Um, and some factions are broken out into multiple bags based on at start counters, uh, counters that come in with limited war cards, and then counters that come in for total war cards are all kind of separated out into a couple of baggies for the larger factions like Japan. And then I've managed to stuff everything inside one of those long rectangular, GMT or Compass game bags, and just have this labeled as Daisenso. And that's, in addition to the administrative counters, if I want to play Daisenso, I can just grab this, add in Schiff's Krieg or whatever I'm going to do there. And then I decided, rather than try to stick it all together, everything that's Totaler Krieg is what's left in here. And so you can see I've got the breakout for Russia, again, separated by at start units versus limited war cards and total war cards. And it can all kind of sit in here pretty well. Again, it's organized by power. I do have miners separated by like rough geographic location. So are they European miners? Are they Middle East miners? Are they Iberian Peninsula miners? Or like Black Sea region? I made that its own smaller baggie that came from that Amazon set. So here I have Italy, but I also have um, uh, Basque and Catalonia. I think I meant to put this in the Spanish bag, but that's okay. Um, Generally, it's like things are organized enough that, especially for the major powers, again, separated by, are they at start, pre-war card oriented, limited war oriented, or total war oriented, fits in here just fine. So you can see, like, I can kind of get this. I got to kind of shuffle things around a little bit to get the lip around, but then, all of that kind of fits in there quite nice. And then again, if I'm, ready to put this away or put the cards back, I'm probably going to have to fiddle to get everything exactly the way I had it when I opened up the video. But generally, it's pretty easy to get this stuff kind of tucked back in where it needs to go. You can imagine, playing this, full forced as a real game, and I'm using every bit and component, that it would take some time to kind of get everything back in the baggies. So I think there'll definitely have to be some like proof in the pudding on, do we feel like we're getting this exactly the way we need it to after having played the game, and getting everything right back into exactly the right what am I saying? Exactly the right baggies again. I always end up with a little bit of like redo with games, because sometimes I'll have them bagged from punching or organized from punching, and then I'll play the game and realize it would be much more efficient to store some of those things a bit differently. So that's certainly a factor here, but everything again should fit nicely right back to where it needs to go. The player aid and rulebooks kind of sit over the gap, the overhang here, but that's not really an issue or anything. It doesn't really cause any problems. I do expect to be storing this game like this and not having it like tipped up to store it flat, just so things don't bounce around very much. But everything fits back in quite good, as you can see. So the baggies might be too much fiddling. You could lose a baggie if you're not keeping, like, making a stack of a baggie and what belongs in there. You would have to label each and every baggie with like a Sharpie or with a piece of paper inserted there, or a sticker. Um, and that's maybe a little too meticulous for me, but generally, having been able to punch everything, organize it in something that resembles order is super good here. So I'm pretty happy with that. I got everything, got everything back in the box. It's reasonably organized. If I don't want to play with Dice of Decision, if I don't want to play with Schiffskrieg, I only have to go to the left side pocket of the insert and get those things out. And in particular, if I just want to play Krieg, I can leave the Daisenso stuff, um, you know, in the bag sealed, and not even go to that. So when I go to do the training scenarios, I generally, can leave a lot of the game bundled up and not even have to reach into the box for them, which is good. So this is just one flavor of organization. I'm sure others will show their style as well, whether that's counter trays or 3D printed solutions that can maybe even more efficiently use the box space. The box is pretty big, so I'd be surprised if you couldn't figure out a way, if you really wanted to get everything back in the box in some form. So something to think about. But this is just one solution. Again, I'm a little fortunate in that I have a lot of those different bag dimensions that allow me a lot of flexibility, but I've appreciated that over the years. It was a really good like Christmas gift for my wife. I want little plastic baggies, and the assorted set has been super valuable over the years. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see more Axis Empires hopefully in the future. Until then, take care, keep on gaming. See you in the next one.